Hi, I'm Max Laferriere. I play Ghostface in Scream 6, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So I'm so excited to be joined by today's guest. Today we are going to be talking all things Scream 6 with the man behind the mask himself, Max Laferriere, who plays Ghostface in Scream 6. Thank you for coming on the show today, Max.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So before we jump into all things Scream 6, and by the way, guys, this is going to have spoilers for the movie. It is now streaming. So if you guys, if you haven't seen it by now, you got to get on that. But make sure you check it out before you watch the rest of this interview. But before we jump into all those things, I just wanted to ask you, Max. You're an actor, you've done work in motion capture, done work in stunts. How did all this kind of get started for you just in the first place?
That's a very good question. They found me on the street and they just went, "Hey, you want to do this?" I was like, "Okay."
Hey, come on.
No. It was I started as an actor when I was 23, I believe. Um, I followed my sister's footsteps, who is also an actress. Her name is Kimberly, and an amazing actress. She's been doing it forever. And I just wanted to try it out, so I did some videos and got my first agent. And then through my agent, a couple of years later, I got hooked up with those with a couple of people that do stunts, and they tried me out. They liked what I did, so I got my first gig on Immortals, the movie from 2011. And then from there, I just kept on going and kept on going, and then uh, I was lucky enough to be able to do both and make this a career.
Yeah.
Same with mocap. I just auditioned for a project one day called For Honor, got the job, and then started working with Ubisoft for doing mocap, and then worked with more companies and more companies, and I was fortunate enough to do video games too.
But you got a chance to do several different things. Is there anything else? I'm just curious. Like, is there anything else that you would like to dabble in other than like the couple areas that you've already done as far as the movie business?
Oh, for sure. Life is so interesting. Let's try everything. I would love to like I directed a play last year, and I really liked directing. So I think I'm gonna do a couple of I'm gonna try and do a couple of projects and direct and see how that goes.
Yeah.
But I like performing. I like acting and I like doing stunts, and the community's great and I enjoy it a lot. So I'm not gonna stop. Yeah, I produced a couple of shorts and a feature some years back. So I like producing as well. I write and I like to do sports and garden and, drive my motorcycle and,
You just
there's so many things.
you're just a jack of all trades, man. And now you got to play a major role in one of the biggest horror franchises of all time. So how did you end up getting cast as Ghostface in the first place? Because I feel like they don't just pick anyone to play this role, and what was like that audition like?
Well, I got the call through my the stunt coordinator for the film called Alex Kadziu. We've worked together in the past, and he asked me if I was available for a rehearsal, as we do for fight scenes. You do a rehearsal before, or a couple of rehearsals. You come up with the fight choreography or whatever the action is going to come. And through the rehearsal, like I didn't know what it was really for. He says, "You want to come for a rehearsal?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." For me, it was a job. So I came in. It was myself and a few other stunt people. And he wanted to come up with the Gale fight, like an early concept of the Gale fight. So, so we started setting it up, and then he told us it was for the new Scream, and I was like, "Great!" I didn't really
Sounds good.
think about it too much. So during rehearsal, he handed me the knife and the mask, and it was like, "Okay, Max, so you're gonna do a ghost face for this, and the others are gonna play like the victims and this and that." I was like, "Okay, great." Um, so we started putting on the choreography, and then a couple of hours later, the directors came and looked at the choreography. And normally you do that, and then they give you notes, and you change the choreo, you change certain things, and in this case, they're like, no, we like it all. Let's keep it the same, and if anything needs to be changed, we'll do it on the day. So we were like, okay, great. And then a couple of days later, Alex called me. He was like, "You want to be Ghostface?" I was like, "Sure." Like I really didn't really think about it. Because he was like, the directors like the way you move, like sort of your presence as the villain. So if you want to do it, you can do it. I was like, okay, great. But I didn't really realize the impact until much later, until my first day on set.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
And so until you actually like got into the thick of things, I was actually going to ask you, like, did they? I mean, you said initially you didn't like know what it was, but then you did find out. Did you like have to wear the costume, the mask, or anything? So it sounds like they gave you the mask. Did you have to wear the costume when you were doing the audition or anything, or?
No, not during. Well, there was no audition. It was just rehearsal
Or rehearsals.
Yeah, just doing the choreography. I didn't wear the costume until Alex asked me to do the part. I just wore the mask, like a mask. It was not even the one from the that you see in the film.
Yeah.
It was just like a mask that you buy at a Halloween well, sorry, I can't speak. It was just a mask that you buy at a Halloween costume store. Just a regular plastic mask. It was just so that when the directors see what we shoot, they know who Ghostface is, even though I'm wielding a knife and stuff. But they want to see what it looks like with the mask on.
Something to reference.
Yeah. So I had to wear a mask.
So what was
a plastic knife, not a real knife, just so we're clear.
that's always important.
Now, always important.
What was your experience, I guess, like with the Scream franchise, but also just the horror genre in general before you took on this role?
What was my experience with the horror genre before taking on this role? I mean, I did a couple of like horror creatures, if you would say. Like I did vampires and I did werewolves in other like TV shows or movies, or let me just fix that. In other TV shows or movies. And I played in like I played a couple of like killers, masked killers. Like I did Terror Train, the remake of Terror Train just before Scream.
Yep.
So I shot that. So I have some experience playing the masked killer. A masked killer. So, and plus, I like these movies, right? They're very entertaining. Like I watched, the Screams, and I watched I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I watched the Halloween, and so I sort of understand the mannerism like any fan would.
Yeah.
So that really
ask you. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, was it something like, had you watched any of these movies any like prior to? But it sounds like so you did like a marathon of all those type of films.
I mean, I didn't, I wouldn't say I did a marathon like you would, like a whole series, but yeah, I for Scream 6 specifically, I watched clips from the previous Ghostface.
Yeah.
So the way he would move and the way he would kill and stuff, and even though I watched sort of the first Screams when they came out, I mean I was young, but I watched them.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah. So I I wouldn't say I'm a fan of horror. Like it's not like, oh man, I can't wait to go watch this movie in theater. Yeah. But I enjoy watching them. When I'm able to chance. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, so and this, I say, like, so I'm a huge Scream fan. Like the first Scream, like not only like horror films, but it's probably like one of my favorite movies just in general of all time. This is arguably probably the most brutal Ghostface that we've gotten in the franchise so far. So I'm curious for you, was there any talk of you like with the directors or anything beforehand about portraying Ghostface that particular way? And then how did otherwise, like, how did you want to approach this character?
That's a good question. We didn't really talk about it that much. He just sort of they just sort of let me be and let me do my thing. And if there was something to change, they would change it, while we would shoot. Um, so we didn't talk about how he was supposed to sort of be present, or how would Ghostface live. All we talked about is that, spoiler if anybody hasn't seen the film, there is more than one killer,
Yep.
right?
Oh yeah.
So they didn't want me to move a specific way based on if it was the sister or the brother, or Dermot. It was just a general sort of being, because Ghostface is my understanding is that Ghostface is an entity of itself.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, it's an actual person inside the costume, that is always revealed at the end. But when that person wears the costume, he's an entity, like Freddy's an entity, or like Jason's an entity. He or she is just a ghostly figure that kills people with a hunting knife. Um, so they didn't want me to act a certain way depending on who was in the costume, like which character is in the costume. It had to be sort of a general idea. Like he couldn't be tall and skinny to portray Jack, or he
Yeah.
couldn't be like, smaller to portray Liana. It had to be just a general figure, right? And then in the action, like they thought it was very brutal, so I think they liked it because they never really said like that's too much.
Yeah, and that's actually it's interesting that you bring that up because that was something that I was going to ask you is that's been a point of contention for some of the fans where sometimes when we get the reveal of who Ghostface is or like who the multiple Ghostface are, some people are like, "What? I can't see that person, doing what they did earlier on in the movie." So I was going to ask you, was there any kind of discussions about making sure that whatever you were doing was believable for like the characters once we found out who they were? So it sounds like it wasn't the case.
No, not really. I mean, all they wanted to do was they were like, make it general. Like we can't see that it's one or the other.
Yeah.
You know, we can't tell like we can't tell the audience in the way you move if it's one of the three.
Yeah.
So it was just like just be you know
Yeah.
be natural, be him, be the killer. That's it.
Yeah. No, and
Be
that
Roger
makes
Jackson's voice in the body
yeah.
somehow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that makes sense. He is kind of even though it is always an individual or individuals, like you said, he has kind of become like an entity on
Yeah.
its own, like the mask. Now, so you kind of mentioned you did look at some previous ghost faces as far as inspiration for like how you were to like move or act. It sounded like was there any ones in particular, or did you just look at like kind of the whole franchise just in general?
I just looked at the franchise in general. I just wanted to get inspired, and I didn't want to copy anybody. I just wanted to make it my own, but I still needed to understand, you know, his natural instincts, and how he or she would be. Um, so I studied it a little bit, and I liked the mannerisms and stuff, and with Matt and Tyler's direction, I was able to give like certain movements that they wanted, like specifically like the knife swipe, let's say. They
Yeah.
wanted that specifically, as a reference. So that, they direct me towards that. And but yeah, I just wanted to give it justice, and make it the best Ghostface that I could make.
Was there anything because you mentioned that you wanted to obviously, make it your own, where now we're six films into the franchise. Was there anything or any things in particular that you did to kind of make yours stand out from some of the previous ghost faces?
I don't know. I just um I think I didn't really think about it, to be honest. Like when I was on set and I wore the costume and the mask, I would just play it sort of like the way I was seeing it.
Yeah.
And most of the time, they liked what I did, so they kept it the same way. I think my natural body movement is a little more brutal, is a little more like big swipes and big stabs and heavy hits. Um, so I just kept it the same, and maybe that's why they like the way I move in that first rehearsal, because of that sort of
Yeah.
brutality that I could bring in, even just with the body.
Yeah, it's interesting that so like you said that they didn't necessarily say that they wanted a more brutal Ghostface, but they might have just seen that in your performance. That's what they were looking for, so that's why they brought you on. Because I don't think, if I'm like remembering part six correctly, because like in the trailers and stuff, they were saying I'm something. Ghostface says I'm something different. So that was
Mhm.
in like the fan community that was made like a big deal because people were like, oh, like why is he different? Like is he's more brutal than like some of the previous ghost faces and stuff like that. So for
Yeah,
you it was just kind of it just kind of came like natural as far as like your performance, but they were
pretty
maybe
much.
for that.
You know, uh, um, I think that's what made all the Ghostface unique, and that's what made all those villains very unique. Is just all the actors behind it just brought what they would do, and um, what naturally came to them, and I think it made them so unique in that way.
Yeah, so I want to talk to you about a couple of scenes, obviously, that you filmed in particular. We got to break down a couple of those for sure. So
Uh-oh.
can you talk about filming the bodega scene? Because I've seen
Yeah.
like several like behind the scenes clips. So I mean, it looked that scene. There's several moments in the movie, but that scene in particular is definitely one that stands out. And I think that not only in this film but the franchise in general. So can you
Yeah.
talk about filming that and just working with Melissa and Jenna in that scene in particular?
Uh, it was great. It was very unique because it's the first time, I think, that in my understanding, that Ghostface would wield a shotgun.
Yeah.
Um, and also the fight with the bodega clerk. His name is Jason Cavalier. He played the guy getting killed at the beginning.
Yep.
Like, you see that Ghostface is not just stabbing people and just running around with a knife and just you know he's got he got skills.
Oh, he gets creative this time around.
At this point, it's like there's the first guy that he stabs in the stomach and then pushes aside, and then the second guy tries to stop him, stabs him in the neck, but very sort of skilled, like, then ducks the shotgun, goes
Yep.
around and stuff, disappears, and then with the guy's got a shotgun and he stops it, stabs him, backfists him, shoots him in the head with one hand. It's like, Jesus Christ. The guy's got skills. So that was a lot of fun. And it took I think 3 days to shoot that scene, 3 full days. Um,
That makes sense because
and
those are pretty big set piece.
yeah, yeah, and it was a lot of fun, and everybody was very efficient at it. And Jenna and Melissa were a blast to work with, but throughout the whole film, not just through that, they were really, really great actresses. Um, very, very professional and creative, and just wonderful humans.
Yeah, no, and it's funny that you mentioned getting like dodging the shotgun and things like that. I remember when the trailer came out. I mean, even myself watching it, I was like, "How the hell did Ghostface dodge that so
He just
fast?"
disappeared.
Yeah,
He
well,
is a ghost.
yeah. Some people were they're like, are they making Ghostface supernatural now? I know there was some people thinking that this was a guy who was like a hired for kill, type of like
Yeah.
Ghostface, like someone behind the mask. So it's interesting that we saw those couple things. Now, was in that particular scene, like, was there anything that was like super challenging to film as far as just like whether it's like the shotgun or stabbing the couple people or
No, I mean, it was not physically, it wasn't really a hard scene to film. Physically, it was just a lot of stabbing, and shooting the gun. And then when the shelves fall on me, when the girls push the shelves on me, it was a little stunt involved, like falling on my back, but it was not
uh,
very difficult, like, physically to do.
yeah.
What was fun is there was a lot of acting involved in this, because it's the first time, sort of, not the first time you see Ghostface, but the actual killer of the film.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of sort of the head tilt and a lot of like body mannerism that that I had to play with. and then trying to be as quiet as possible, but be the stalker at the same time. Think of how a hunter would hunt its prey. So very sort of quiet
Yeah,
in,
it made
in
it a little
Bodega.
more intense too. Just
Yeah.
where you mentioned that this was kind of the first time, like we've seen the ghost faces, I think, outside of the costume, like have a gun, but never have a shotgun, like when they're actually chasing someone like that. So that scene was, was definitely one of the more intense scenes in the film.
Yeah.
So the other one is I want to talk to you about the apartment slash ladder chase scene. That whole
Oh
sequence
yeah.
is that there was a lot going on with that. You had running
Oh
around
yeah.
the apartment, and then the whole ladder chase. So
Yeah.
kind of what went into that?
Great people, very efficient. Um, that was fun because the whole gang was there.
Yep,
The core four and others as well.
which I love the
Um,
name.
yeah, it was really great. Everybody was again very professional and very talented and giving it their all for their shot. Um, it's great because Devyn, who plays Annika, um, she's very light, as a person. She's short and doesn't weigh a lot. So in the scene, like I was supposed just to lift her up, and then we talked about it in rehearsal. Like, how about I grab her by the throat and lift her with one hand? You know, and we're like, yeah, that's kind of cool. So we kept that in the shot where I try to slash her and I slash Jasmine's arm, and then I grab Annika by the neck and just lift her, with one arm. It was like, oh my god, Ghostface is he's a
Yeah,
strong dude to lift someone, but she helped me out. Of course, there was like stunts technique behind it.
yeah.
And then when she gets stabbed, her scream was icing. It was so intense. The stab and the rise up of the knife.
Oh
It
yeah,
was so intense. And what you hear in the movie is what she did on set. It was very intense
yeah. I mean,
and amazing at the same time.
you felt bad for obviously felt bad for the character because just you took like that knife and just the way that Ghostface like twisted it too. It's like cheese. Like there were, like I said, probably the most like brutal Ghostface that we've gotten. He wasn't messing around, so that's cool. So that was you said that was kind of like an improvised moment, adding like lifting her up with like the arm because that wasn't
It,
originally in the script.
it wasn't improvised on set. It was during a rehearsal. We
Okay.
we came up with the idea in rehearsal, and then the directors decided to keep it.
So
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I always like hearing those little moments that maybe weren't originally part of like, the script and then get injected into the film because someone, brings it up like
yeah.
yourself.
I
So
mean, everybody brings their own little piece, and it creates a great product in the end.
now what about the ladder, like once they all start going across the apartment, which I still think is hilarious watching the movie that the fact that the guy he had that giant ladder in his
Yeah,
apartment and just pulls it across, for them
yeah.
to come across. But what
He's
was it like?
resourceful. We'll give him
Yeah,
that.
oh,
He's
very resourceful.
There we go.
What was it like filming that? Like where did you guys I guess like how did you like film that? Like obviously you didn't film it where someone could
Uh,
like fall off
no,
or
no, 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 no. We filmed. It was in studio. Everything with the actors was filmed in studio. Um, so they built a set. They built the two apartments and the top of the alley. So that was all like indoors, and then they put the ladder in. We had like giant mattresses for when Devyn is tipped over. Um, and then they shot. I was there just at the beginning. That was actually my first day on set. Um, we shot the fall, the actual fall, on top of an actual building here in Montreal. Um, and the stunt double was rigged up, of course, and then we had the whole fall and the hit on the container,
oh yeah.
on the trash container. It was pretty brutal. But yeah, the stunt woman actually did it. Her name is Leiko, who doubled Devyn, and she fell like 5 stories. It was
Holy
pretty
crap.
pretty cool. Yeah, yeah,
That's pretty intense. Yeah, I mean, watching it came out great in the movie, and it's again
yeah.
poor the character getting first gets like stabbed, but then trying to cross the ladder, falls off. Not only is she falling to her death, but then hits the dumpster or whatever. It's like Jesus.
it's the final straw, you know.
Oh,
It's
oh
like,
yeah.
oh well,
Yep. Yeah, you didn't
you're
just
just gonna die anyway. Might as well make it cool, make it
yeah.
gory.
Another one of like my favorite scenes too, the subway sequence. I
Yeah,
imagine that must have been just a lot of fun because there was a ton of like extras and stuff. A
yeah,
lot of people probably working on set that day. Um, eh, for that scene, I guess and it was just creepy because you had like a number of different people wearing Ghostface masks, so you didn't know
yeah.
who was the real Ghostface. So can you just talk a little bit about filming that sequence too?
It was great. There was a lot of people, a lot of extras. They built a whole subway station inside. Like that was all done in studios in Montreal.
That's
It was
crazy.
freaking amazing. Like the art department really outdid themselves. And the train would move. You know, it would stop. Like they had it on rails, and they could like pull and push the train.
Jeez.
So it was amazing to see like the whole station and everything, like the details. Um, and then it was pretty awesome, you know, to have a bunch of ghost faces and play with the idea that they didn't know who it was, and you know if Ghostface is actually there, because even though they're all wearing the mask, like in that point of the story, they don't know if he's in that train, right? They think
Yep.
like Jasmine thinks that it's still Jack, you know, in the costume, but he's there without a mask on, and she gets stabbed, so it can't be him. Can't be him.
Yep.
Um, and so it was super fun to be there with everybody and spend time, you know, doing that scene all together.
Yeah, I think that was probably like one of the most like intense sequences, which it kind of like stinks because I always at least watch like the one trailer, but it's almost one of those scenes that I wish I hadn't seen at all, and then just like would have experienced it for the first time, like seeing it in the theater, just to kind of
Right.
because that would have had like I
Oh, you
think
mean the trailer? Like
yeah,
you
yeah, because
wish
then
you wouldn't see it in the trailer.
yeah, yeah. So it's like
Yeah,
one of those things that I wish I just experienced it for the first time on the the big screen.
I
Um,
see.
but it's still like I mean, even seeing it in the trailer, it was still very effective just because you didn't know where he was or who could be Ghostface. Was he there? So I mean, yeah, great job like overall. And then so you talked the audition or not the audition, the rehearsal with for the Gale chase scene. So where
Yeah.
she's like one of the OGs, can you just talk a little bit about like work filming that whole sequence with her and did you talk to her before like filming it, just how everything was gonna go down?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit, you know, with the whole crew and Alex being, you know, the like the head of the stunt department. He brought her on for rehearsal. We did a day of rehearsal with her at the apartment after the scene was the it was all conceptualized. So she showed up with the director and producers and everybody, and then we went through the fight scene with her. She did most of it herself.
That's cool.
Like, yeah, she had a stunt double called Marie-Ève Becker's, which we did. You know, the flip at the end where I break the glass table.
Yep.
That was done by Marie-Ève because she had like to throw me precisely where it was. But Courtney did most of it herself. Like she's a trooper. Like she was really professional and amazing. Um, and then so yeah, we did work with her prior to filming. Yeah.
That's really cool though. It's always fun to hear when you hear like some of the actors getting to do a lot of the stunts
Oh
that they are able to, and they
yeah,
do
she's still
stuff.
very much in shape. Like you know, she was crawling on the floor and hitting me with the lamp and running around the apartment and all that stuff. All the chase, like she did it herself mostly.
Now, I don't know. Did you ever get a chance to actually meet the Ghostface, the voice behind Ghostface, Roger L. Jackson? No.
No, sadly. Hopefully one day. You know.
Yeah.
I actually didn't realize that he has been doing the voice forever.
Yep.
He's the only voice that has been, you know, Ghostface. And I
That's
was like, oh my
Ghostface.
god, that's awesome. Like, you know, because that voice is so iconic.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, he is, the voice of Ghostface. It's like I can't imagine them ever getting someone else to,
yeah,
to do the voice besides him. So
yeah,
because I figured that he probably does a lot of his stuff like by himself, a lot of the voice work or whatever. So I wasn't sure if you guys, got the chance to meet, but yeah, hopefully you do. The two ghost faces get to meet up at some point.
Yeah, hopefully one day. That'd be great.
Now, just to wrap things up, Max, is there anything else just as far as like, working on the film? Do you want to say anything to the fans in general, and where can fans keep up with your work going forward?
Do I want to say anything to the fans? Thank you. Thank you so much for watching and for, being there and, it's the sixth Scream. It's been done.
Broke
But
records.
it's so cool because every time a new Scream is done, something new happens, and it's the story keeps going on. There's always something interesting happening, and the fans are there and they watch it and they like it, and they keep coming to the movie theaters, which is very appreciated. So thank you, thank you. So yeah, I would just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for watching, and I'm very glad that everybody liked the film.
Yeah, no, it came out great. It's one of my favorite movies of the year, Max. You guys nailed it. Coming from a big Scream fan, so and
That's awesome.
fans can catch you on Instagram, right? Do you have like any other social media?
I mean, I do, but I'm not there a lot. The only one
Okay.
that I'm there mostly is Instagram.
Okay.
I do have a Facebook page, Max Laferriere, but it's I'm rarely on it. It's basically my Instagram just gets copied on my Facebook page.
Yep.
And I have a Twitter, but again, I'm rarely on it.
Instagram's where it's at.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know why. Us Canadians, we don't really use Twitter that much.
Yeah.
I don't like in Quebec anyway. Like it's not a huge social media trend. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure people do, but I'm not like I don't use it that much.
I don't either. Instagram's probably like the most popular for me too. So,
Right,
well, hey,
right.
thank you again, Max. I appreciate you, taking
Thank
time
you.
out of your schedule to come on here, talk about your career, talk all things Scream 6. It was a blast talking to you and having you on.
Hey, thank you so much, and it was a blast talking to you too. Hi, I'm Max Laferriere. I play Ghostface in Scream 6, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.